Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in live here on a beautiful day in Washington. I'm live streaming from Crescent Bar, Washington. We made it over to Central Washington a couple of days ago. Had a nice little meet and greet, socially distanced style at Walla Walla Point Park here in Wenatchee. I was able to meet up with some libertarians today and enjoy the sun and hand out some signs. But I'd like to welcome you to our 11th edition of Be Free TV, where we'll be talking about it. You guessed it, freedom and freedom-based solutions to government manufactured issues and the things that we can do as libertarians to make the lives of everyday people better. As you're aware, we've been focusing on topics such as healthcare, insurance, and government at large. But many of the things that you've heard me mention over the years, I'm excited to be bringing to you other candidates that share some of these ideas so that you'll understand that I'm not just the crazy guy that talks about some of these things. There are others that think like me and you that have been following us. So if we can get these ideas elected into the office, it'll certainly change the way government controls our lives and hopefully controls them less. So in today's episode, I'm excited to have Luis Vanacore joining us this evening. He is running for the Libertarian nomination for president. And I'm grateful for you joining us. And thank you, first off, so much, sir, for putting your life out in the public eye. It is something that if you haven't been a candidate before, you don't quite understand what it's like. But I commend you for doing what you think is right. And thank you for joining us.
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me. I look forward to the discussions this evening.
Yeah. So tell us just real quickly, where are you calling from? You're running for president?
Yes, I'm running for the nomination for the Libertarian Party for the President of the United States. I'm actually calling this evening from a home. I live in the Panhandle of Florida, so that's I'm about an hour west of Tallahassee, about an hour north of Panama City, and about an hour south of Dothan, Alabama. So and just a hop, skip, and jump over to Georgia. So.
You made out pretty good then with the convention 2.0 that got rescheduled for Orlando.
That's right. It did work out pretty good.
At least one of us did. Orlando's quite a bit of a longer flight than Austin was for me, all the way here in the Pacific Northwest. But
I've got about a 5-hour, 6-hour drive. So,
well, thank you for running, sir. And something that. One of the things that's important to me, that one of the reasons why I'm running for office here in Washington is to also encourage and empower others to do it, because I was somebody that was just frustrated with politics, like so many people that are watching right now, and it quickly turned from, okay, let's stop complaining about it, to how can I participate, how can I change things. So one of the things I always like to ask people is, what maybe turned you from somebody that was maybe just a pissed off voter to somebody that wanted to get involved into activism, to now running for office, and in your case, the highest office in the land?
Okay. Well, many years ago, the South was pretty much solid Democrat. And you might say when I started voting, it was solid Democrat. Over time, things changed. And the one thing I realized is things just weren't happening. And I wasn't satisfied with any of the parties, so I kind of drifted over to becoming an independent. And I must say I spent most of my adult life being an independent, thinking, well, I'm a free thinker, I'm going to vote for the best person, etc. And then it got to a point where I realized, I don't really care for either of the party candidates. And that's when I realized I really was not an independent. I was really a libertarian. And it was kind of a discovery about, what are you talking about? And that's when I realized, well, wait a minute, they're talking about things, that I believe in. So I was introduced to the Libertarian Party by an acquaintance, and it was he was not trying to get me to join. He was just saying that I didn't know what I was, and he was right. So that's really kind of how I moved into the Libertarian Party, and it really was, I drifted there because the solutions of the other parties just weren't really solutions. Matter of fact, I saw them more as problems than solutions. So that's kind of what brought me, you might say, to the Libertarian Party. To decide to run, though, what I guess what really got me to decide to run is, I've been fortunate. I mean, I've done okay in life. I consider myself a blessed person. Okay. But when you look around, you realize people are fighting just to keep their heads above water, and it seems like people are, in particularly government or things going on politically, are kind of not helping them. Okay, so I realized that, hey, I've got grandkids and I've got great grandkids, and they need to have a better life and better opportunities than what you might say I was blessed with, and there's no reason that they shouldn't, and it's not going to happen unless someone steps forward. And frankly, I don't see anyone stepping forward into the specific void that I'm going into. So that's really what got me, you might say, decided I'm going to run. No one else is going to do what I'm looking to achieve. I'm going to do it.
I appreciate the desire to put on your work gloves, put on your work boots, and participate, because it's so easy to be apathetic this day and age, and frankly, I don't blame people, right? When left and right often feel the same, because nothing changes year after year, no matter who's in power. It's easy to get tired of showing up and voting when you realize your vote doesn't really amount to a positive change in your life, and to go from a position of feeling apathetic to wanting to step up. I commend you for that, Mr. Vanacore. So thank you for doing that. And I encourage others to do so as well, because he's exactly right. For your children and your grandchildren, as cliche as that means, nobody is going to fight harder for their lives than you. And it takes each of us putting forth that effort to really propel change, and this needs to be a human movement to move us the right direction, and societal change than it is letting the system hold us down. And one of the ways the system holds us down, obviously, as we transition into some talk about healthcare and insurance reform, is the expense of healthcare, right? The expense of health insurance. And I'm curious, as you're running for president here, sir, what do you think the federal government's role is when it comes to healthcare and health insurance?
Well, the government's role, and I'm going to say it's actually broader than just the healthcare and insurance, is, constitutionally, they've got no role. Okay. They're there to help organize and coordinate, you might say, protection of the state, etc. However, I do understand that politically, if the states and the representatives of the states choose to come together and do something that they believe that as a group is a better solution than a solution which you might say is developed and held solely at a state level, I can understand why the federal government becomes involved. Okay. But that's because the representatives bring it forward and make it happen. But I guess this is part, actually, that gets right kind of to one of the main issues that I've got with how our government works. And I'm not talking about specifically our federal government. I'm talking about our political processes as they have evolved. And they have been evolved by the political parties that are in control. Now, for the last, I don't know, I'm going to say century, that has basically been the Republican and Democratic Party. And at a federal level or national level, that's the RNC and DNC. So when you start talking about federal role in healthcare and in insurance, et cetera, you're talking really about how those two party leadership groups want to move forward and have implemented in the country. Okay. And of course, that goes back, well, who are their donors and what do their donors want to achieve? Okay. Their special interests. So I guess where I'm at is, in a broad sense, I feel we have lost our republic. I feel that the parties are running our country. I feel that there's a need to disrupt our political systems, okay, specifically the RNC and DNC. I don't have as big an issue at a state level for a Republican or a Democratic structure per se, except when they basically give all power up to, and you might say just take full direction from the national level, okay? To the extent that they are independent, maybe they're doing some good for the people. But what has occurred is we have lost our representation. We do not have representatives. It was no taxation without representation. Well, now we've got no representation. Okay. Our representatives, once elected, go to Washington and they do whatever their RNC and DNC tell them to do. The same thing occurs, you might say, the control in Congress. You've got majority and minority leadership in there. And basically between them, and again, back with the party leadership, RNC, DNC, they establish what legislation will move forward, what will get tabled, okay, and what will be accomplished. It's not the representatives that are, you might say, independently representing their people. This has got to change. This has got to change. And for libertarians, what I think that means is we have to run, you might say, down at the city and county commissioner level. We have to run at the state level, and we have to run and make an impact at the presidential level. If not, people are not going to see and understand what's really going on with the political parties' leadership, RNC, DNC. So that, you might say, is kind of the core of the problems that I see out there. The result of where we're at, and I don't know how it is in your state over there, in Washington, but pretty much things we're kind of a divided society. It's kind of an all or nothing according to which political party you're in.
Yep.
And we're not getting things accomplished. And there is a divide in the country, and that divide needs to be bridged. To me, this one of the major sources of the division that we've got in the all or nothing is the fact that if you got 51 senators, you've got it. you're in control. It's you're free to go. And if you got the other house, then you've got control of Congress. Or if you've got the president, then the presidency, then you've got, you might say, a trifecta kind of going. So that control needs to be, unless that control and how that occurs changes, we are just going to stay mired where we're at. Now, I'm going to switch gear a little bit, if you don't mind. Okay. Here in September, okay, September and October, we will officially be identified as being in a recession. On election day, people are going to start to realize that not only are we in a recession, but there's a high possibility we may be heading towards a depression. I mean, they're talking, 25% unemployment, more or less, possibly more. That's significant. Okay. When it comes to time that the election is going to occur, people are going to have two major items on their mind. One is their health. What's going on with this virus? They're concerned about their health. And how are they going to get a job if they don't have a job? In all these families, if they directly don't have a concern for their health, or if they're you might say solid with a job, they're going to have friends and family who are dealing with that issue. It may not be in their house, but it's going to be fairly close to them. I suspect we'll be over 250,000 deaths by that time, just from the coronavirus. So I think that the election is ultimately going to turn on whoever can convince the public that they have a vision moving forward to make jobs and to attack this coronavirus.
And you said the dirty word there is government's going to make jobs. and I think that's the scary thing so much about what's going to happen with Trump or Biden is, we've already seen this from from Trump over the last couple of years. He's talked about a couple $1 trillion infrastructure plan that's going to come in the form of a gas tax. And, I think we could probably both spend all day talking about, increased federal gas taxes and infrastructure projects that are going to take years to complete and trillions of dollars. But it is dangerous there because we are heading towards a recession, and that makes things like healthcare and insurance so much more important for people. Right? People need to stay healthy through these times, and the more costly it is, the bigger detriment it's going to be to society, and more people will die, less people will have the mental health care they need. And that's why, running for local office, like you mentioned, state insurance commissioner is such a passion of mine, because these things are going to hit home here locally very soon. We see it with things like domestic violence increasing. We see it with increased suicides here. We see it even with increased, car theft, right? These things, as people reach stress points, as they reach economic stress points and emotional stress points, both privately and publicly, that's going to have an effect. And it's important that we reduce the cost of health insurance and health care, so that people can get the treatment that they need to stay whole through these trying times that are very government manufactured. So one thing I always like to touch on when it comes to libertarians running for president, right? No matter who's in control of the Senate or the House, there are sometimes going to be bills that you might feel compromise your beliefs. What do you think the libertarian role is, or the presidential role is in using the veto power to veto things like Obamacare?
Well, since you brought it up, you're the one who brought it up. Okay,
I threw you a softball here.
You gave me a softball. All right, I've got a platform for the executive branch. I'm running for the executive branch. I'm not running to be a legislator. That's Congress. I'm running to be president. Okay, it's a different focus. Libertarians have an excellent platform for legislation. and we need to get those enacted, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to take electing many people such as you, okay, and move them up, okay, to the federal levels. But since you brought up the veto, I've got 4 planks in my platform. Okay, the first plank is I don't want no foreigner in my election. Okay, I think most people agree to that. The only difference is I define foreigners a little bit different than most people. Okay. Like I mentioned, I'm in North Florida. I mentioned that I'm just south of Dothan, Alabama, and not too far from Bainbridge, Georgia. Well, I got many good friends in those states, but they're still foreigners. I don't want someone from out of state coming into my state and giving my representatives money when it's time to go and get election. You keep your money back home. Don't get involved in my state, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that way. The only people who should be giving a representative or anyone running a campaign should be someone qualified to vote in that election. Otherwise, they're a foreigner, okay? We don't need people coming in and buying our representatives. That's plank 1. Plank 2.
And your plank there. See, now you just teed one up for me here. See, this is why libertarianism is great, is because you teed that up for me. So, here in the state of Washington, the incumbent insurance commissioner takes 90% of his money from out of state of Washington. 90% of his existing donations, and he's a 40-year career politician. Guess how much mine is, folks? Guess.
I hope it's down low to near zero.
I've got 99% of my money from inside the state of Washington. I've got no donation over $100 outside of the state of Washington. I got a couple of buddies that live in other states that say, yeah, I'll support you, dude. Thanks for running, right? They gave me $20 or $100,
yeah.
Right? The incumbent takes 90% of his money from out of state, folks. And we need politicians like Luis or myself, and politicians is a dirty word, but we need folks like this that are willing to call out that evilness of money buying elections, and not just call it out when it's the other team, right? Because it's very easy for Democrats and Republicans to be like, well, he's taking money from this group, and then Democrats point back at the Republicans and say, well, he's taking money from this group, and folks like Luis and myself, we don't. We want to represent you, right? We want to represent the people in our districts, in our state, and make sure that stays local. But Gohan, fill us in on the veto. Go ahead and jump to that.
Well, okay, yeah, I'm working towards a veto. So the second plank is the rules in Congress, the way that the majority and minority leadership work. Basically, they can control what goes to the floor, when it goes to the floor, and if they can get the 51 votes and it passes, they got it under control. Of course, that means 49 people are very upset that it passed, So we get division. You guarantee you're going to have division when you have that majority type rule. It's baked in. So my platform number 2 says they need to rewrite those rules, and they need to get 2/3 of the representatives to agree to those rules, not a simple majority. 2/3 of them need to agree to those rules. And by the way, one of the rules that needs to be changed is that whenever you pass legislation, for it to be considered passed, it has to have 2/3 votes. So now you're talking about, wait a minute, your party's not going to be able to do this itself. You need to form alliances. You need to get input. Force them to work together and get consensus. There's no need for one president to get, you might say, his agenda through, and then when the next president comes in, it gets undone, and then the next one comes in, and we kind of seesaw back and forth. People are sick of that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So my second plank is what I call the 2/3 to pass as a legislation, and then 2/3 to pass the new rules. So then we get to, I'm going to go to plank number 4. I'm going to come back to plank number 3. Plank number 4 basically says, I'm going to be an honest broker. Okay. I'm not going to play party favors. Okay. I'll, as a libertarian in the presidency, both parties will come and try to sway you one way or the other. We should not, in the executive branch, try to implement or you might say extend legislation that has not really legitimately passed the Congress. And we see that all the time now, where they'll, through their rules, try to go ahead and add in additional things that their party was not able to get through. So it's the honest broker. That was number 4. So I come back to number 3. Well, what's number 3? Number 3, interesting enough, I know that Congress is not going to give up and go to a 2/3 vote on either new rules or on passing legislation anytime soon or very easy. So there's only one thing and one person that could do it, and that is new rule, new president, new rule, and that is veto any legislation that does not have a 2/3 approval in Congress. Force them to work together. Either that or they shut down Congress. Okay.
The idea of mob mentality rule is something that is lost, I think, on the general public. But the idea that if 51 people want to steal the ice cream of 49 people, that is okay because they have 2 more people on their side, is exactly what you're talking about. And yeah, I could see moving to even like a 2/3 would be healthier. You know, obviously that still is the use of force, right? And libertarians would reject the use of force. But as a pragmatic step forward, I would sign on to a bill of that nature for sure. Well, let's dive into this real quick. We just got a couple of minutes here. As we're coming up on about 30 minutes. I told you I had about 25 here today. Go ahead and just tell us real quickly what you think that the number one issue is on health care right now from a government standpoint, a federal standpoint, that you would fix, and why you think that you're the best guy to get it done.
Okay. I think the biggest challenge that we've got relative to health care, the government is too embedded into it, into the middle of it. Okay. I think that there are ways to do, you might say, let me put it this way. There are many things that the government intends to improve with healthcare. Okay. And the less that government is actually involved in those improvements, the better. Now, that does not mean that the government, okay, and more specifically, I mean, because the government's a big name, okay? I mean, it really
it's a big umbrella.
Down, you know, it really comes down to Congress makes laws, okay? Congress, let's put it this way, I'm sure that the insurance companies, okay, would rather not Congress make many of the laws that they make. And I think but with more dialogue between Congress, the executive, and the insurance companies on how to not need to pass necessary laws, okay, but instead have the insurance companies, okay, go ahead and it's basically a form of self-regulation, okay, where they can go ahead and you might say prevent the need for Congress to put these in place. There's abuses. I mean, that's the problem, and that's where it ends up, you might say, getting passed, okay, and what forces insurances to get passed. If they can have additional ways where they can avoid that and self-police themselves, the better off we all will be. You know, insurance is a contract, okay? And if there are disputes in a contract, you usually end up having to go through some form of legal system. And by having the legal system more available to those, I'm going to say on the lower income, because it's very expensive to do that, is probably one of the biggest items that I think can help in the insurance industry right now. There's when I talk with people, they're very concerned. They want to see laws put in place because they feel they cannot fight the insurance companies. And I think that if the insurance companies realize that people really don't want to they just want to settle, get issues paid for. And if they're the methods to get them resolved, if they were easier to get resolved, people would probably not push as much for the insurance laws, and you might say some of the draconian aspects that they ask their representatives for. And of course, the representatives, they get a lot of you might say mileage out of indicating that they're putting these draconian rules in place. So that's probably, I think, one of the bigger areas, and it's really more of a grassroots leveled item that it really needs to start at and come up and get the Congress and the representatives to understand, hey, people would like to have other solutions. Okay, it's not always a new law, it's not always a new program. Okay, it's not always an additional benefit. People just want to have the insurance available, okay, and they want to be able to get the insurance, you might say, paid for whenever they have an occurrence, and if they've got a problem, a method to get it resolved. Interesting enough, here in I'm going to say the northern side of the Panhandle, I'm really surprised the number of people who, just as a lifestyle, do not live with insurance. It's not even, on their radar. Okay. And it's because they don't want to get dragged into something that someone else has got control of. Granted, you might say they work in their own insurance network in the sense of with families, etc. So, but it's any family, that's a major concern.
The less, well, let me rephrase that. The more self-reliant we can become, the better off we will be. And insurance is necessary in a lot of ways right now because the cost of care is so expensive, and we've definitely got to reduce the cost of care, reduce the cost of prescription medicine, reduce the cost of x-ray machines and things of that nature. Well, Luis, I appreciate you joining us here this night and sharing some of your thoughts. I'll make sure to get this out in front of everybody, in front of the delegates here for the Washington State Libertarian Party. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, Luis, where can they reach you via email?
Okay. Well, my website is Vanacore, Vanacore 2020.com. And my email is Vanacore, Vanacore 2020.com.
Excellent. Well, everybody make sure to check out his website, follow his, subscribe to his emails. The more we can keep this conversation moving forward, the better. And I appreciate you joining us here this evening, Mr. Vanacore, and best of luck to you in your race for the Libertarian nomination to president. And of course, my friends.
Thank you for this. I was going to say thank you for this opportunity. I'll hit for the top. You come in right there in the state level. We need libertarians in that level.
Yes, we do. And one way that we're going to do that is to show how my ideas to reduce the cost of care and reduce the cost of insurance are the only way forward here in the state of Washington. And one way we do that is through public forums. I'd like to invite everybody that's tuning in tonight. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. right here on my Facebook page, I will be debating or in a town hall format with the Republican challenger for this election. So definitely tune in. Start a watch party with your friends. Let's show how that our libertarian ideas are the way forward to reduce the cost of care and insurance here in the state of Washington. In the meantime, go to anthonywelty.com. Make a donation today if you support my campaign. Get yourself a beer koozie, a yard sign, or a t-shirt. And in the meantime, be free. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.